Alright, yeah, just didn't think the fight was that fucking hard with me. I feel that way, but
That wasn't the fight.
but no, it was good. I think if I could have wrote the script, it couldn't have gone any better really. Not to be, to be, the fellow. I knew he had a big performance in me. I really, the way the training came on, I really knew he had something good in me. But to be one of the best body punchers in the world, and it's not like beating at his own game in many ways, to knock him out with a body punch like that was. I couldn't have wrote the script. I couldn't have wrote the script, to be honest.
How much does it mean to you if you going through your career unbeaten now?
An unbeaten run is everything. But I mean, and ultimately, the main goal was never, just to get an unbeaten run. When I first kicked off, I wanted to win a world title. That would be on my wildest dreams. I wanted to become the number one in my division because there's so many versions of world titles I don't know. To be the number one in the division, there's 5 world titles nowadays, but to be the number one in the division, like I did against Castillo, I moved up in weights, won world titles at different weights. What do you think of the last 4 or 5 fights? If you haven't done fighting for world titles or moving up and down the weight divisions and fighting for world titles, one of the best pound for pound fighters in the world. It's just, I don't think you can get better than that. When I look back at years ago when I got a lot of, not a lot of criticism, but maybe a lot of people turn around and say, well, Ricky's just a big ticket seller, he sells a lot of tickets, he's exciting to watch, but I don't think everyone probably expected me to probably do what I've done, to be honest. They probably thought, well, he's a good lad, Ricky, he's exciting to watch, he's a good ticket seller, but I don't think he expected me to probably do what I've done.
Yeah, it was an exciting fight, but in cutscenes, they were getting there, wasn't it?
That's right. I mean, I had to put a weight on, well, you don't want to fight that guy, you don't want to fight this guy. He's avoiding everybody, you don't want to fight the top man. He's staying in Manchester, in the Erin Arena, which was seen as a bit of a safety zone. All he wants to do is fight in Manchester, in the Erin Arena, in front of his own crowd, and not go out of his comfort zone, so to speak. But I always knew I was capable. Right from day one I said I wanted to be the best in the world and I wanted to unify belts and have the best pound for pound fighters in the world, and I'm sure there's many out there that didn't believe me. But I always said I could do what I was doing, but when you see, there must have been, there must have been about 15,000 there last night, something like that. To do that in your hometown would have been great, but to do it halfway across the world, and but before the bell went and Michael Buffer was introducing me and everything, I was sneaking up down at ringside and you see all the people that Robbie Williams, Vinnie Jones, and just all the people there. I thought, this is a bit different to the social club and the working men's clubs in Manchester where we first kicked off. It really, made me feel so proud.
You said a couple of times last night that your 2 best performances you think have been against Castillo and Zhu, 2 sort of pound for pound punches. Is there a lesson there for you to think that, from now on you want the bigger the names, the better you're going to fight?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the bigger the names, the better, I think that was probably the performance. That was probably the in the previous 2 performances. I think that was why I was a little bit. I probably do myself a little bit of this, just this, because I thought 2 southpaws, I thought 2 world champions in 2 different weight divisions, but being like, I take a lot of pride in, that being exciting and being like value for money and everything, and the last 2 performances fell well short of that. And I think I went in there a bit tonight, last night a bit bit of a nasty man type thing, you know. I wanted to really, you know, get back, you know. And everybody, I mean, if you had $1 last night for every time someone came up to me after the fight and said that was the old Ricky Hatton, you know, that's what it was basically.
You might not have picked him up, but I did.
Ricky, can I ask you about this, the American press reaction here? I mean, we've been through all this here before with Lennox, and it was very hard for him to get any credit here. One guy that says, unfortunately, Castillo failed to hold up his half of the deal. The shadow of his former self, Castillo was badly outclassed. And this other guy, the columnist, says, Hatton in a ring against Mayweather would be a lost, undisciplined, desperate welterweight, wondering why all those punches he landed were being deflected quicker than he could throw them. I mean, how do you feel about that? I mean, it is very difficult.
John, can I just interject here? Is that same fellow is a fellow who's got right meaning to Hartlepool. Yeah, a bit of we've got a bit of history together, and I've read that myself, and I think there might be a little bit of something in there.
Well,
And the other thing is, can you also note? I think the judges got Castillo winning the third round, so it was a competitive.
yeah, well, I'm asking his view of that, because I mean, it's always been very hard for British fighters to get credit here.
Well, I don't want to sound like I'm, you know, pulling my face, but it seems like it's very hard for me to get credit at the minute. I mean, I'm mad enough to hold my hands up, you know, my last couple of fights before. I wasn't quite at my very best, you know. But I think, you know, there's reasons. Last time I had it come out with a terrible cold, the fight at welterweight, you know, I thought, you know, it was a little bit of a rush preparation in order to move up a weight. And it seems like, you know, the American, the guy who interviewed me, as soon as I got out of the ring, you know, he seemed to just put a damper on the thing. He said, you know, I thought, fuck off. Yeah. I thought, oh, cheers, you know. One day I'm going to get someone who'll say, well done. But, you know, no, I mean, I think, you know, the form I was on last night, you know, let's just say worst case scenario, Jose Luis Castillo was a little bit past it. I think to knock someone like that who's a very good vet, you know, a crazy veteran, knows how to look after himself, you know, to knock him out that quickly, I think even if he's past it, it's fucking impressive.
Well, Lennox won the argument in the end with them because he kept coming in and knocking people out. And in the end, there was no argument against it. I mean, that's the way you do it, isn't it?
You've got to, you know, we've got to cut the crap out. There's like one thing Americans hate is British fighters coming over and knocking the shit out of their guy. I mean, and to put it, you know, I know he was a Mexican fighter, a little bit different, but you know, you can't get no credit over here. You know, and a lot of people turn around and say, well, we have a lot of, you know, British fighters, yeah, they're not bad, but then the minute they come over to America, you know, they fight our best, then they get beat. You know, what happens when they go the other fucking side of the water? You know what I mean? You know, I don't think people realise how difficult it is to get on a 10-hour flight, fly all the way over here, in this heat, with a time difference, and, you know, and everything over, and beat some of the best fighters in the world. You know, Joe McLaren went over to fight Nigel Benn. You know, he got beat. You know, Jeff Lacey come over, fought Joe Kawasaki. He got beat. You know, it's hard to travel, you know, and come and perform. And we always seem to have to come this way. You know, to come over to the States and fight them. They don't like coming over there. But when they come over, they seem to get beat.
On the other hand, Ricky, I mean, he's an isolated voice, and you've got quite a lot of credit actually in most of the American papers.
Oh, I don't know, it's like, I'm not good, I'm happy with myself. I'm happy with myself. You know, when I look at, you know, come over from the weigh-in to the fight, to the atmosphere, to, you know, the every occasion, you know, I do get a lot of praise from the American press. You know, I do get a lot of people that do like me over here. But I think for a British fighter to come over here and put on that performance, and for it to be that much of an occasion, you know, it's good. You know, I hold my hands up and say Floyd Mayweather is without doubt, you know, the best fighter pound for pound in the world. These fights don't generate atmosphere like that. You know, and his performances bore you to fucking tears, as good as he is. You know, and I think, you know, it's easy for him to come over and go, well, yeah, well, that, you know. Can't even watch him Floyd Mayweather sing you to fucking sleep then. Because as good as he is, he sends you to sleep. You know, I mean, technically, you can't get a better fighter than Floyd Mayweather. I mean, as a boxing fan, you sit back and watch him and go, wow, how much talent has that man got? Well, you know, when he's fighting back in England at 5 in the morning, I don't stay up to watch him, I just fucking record it.
Is that the ultimate one you'd like, though, Ricky?
Well, obviously, because he's the best pound-for-pound fighter in the world, isn't he? You know, and you know, it's not beyond me. You know, I'd be an underdog, you know, and I'd expect that, but it's certainly not beyond me. The victory. Floyd is a wonderful fighter, and from a boxing fan's point of view, I sit back and I watch him, and there's so much to admire about his style. But I personally think I'd be his worst nightmare. You know, to be honest, he's wonderfully talented. But I think he likes to sit on the ropes. Sometimes he shuts up shop. You know, he wants me like an ultimate. To be honest with you, believe you me, you know, a victory of that size, I don't think is beyond me.
What would be the biggest difference if you got in the ring against Mayweather from how De La Hoya fought? What would we see from you that De La Hoya didn't bring in?
Well, I think De La Hoya, you know, had the right tactics. You know, up to about 7 rounds, I thought to myself, you know, you're going to have to pull your finger out here, Floyd, because you've gone into your shell. You know, but you know, I know, you know, if I wouldn't have let him back into the fight. I think Oscar, when he watched the fight the next day, he better picked himself, because you know, he went on the front foot, he pushed him back, he jabbed at his chest, he moved him backwards. But you know, for whatever reason, I think he's had a pattern of doing that a little bit in his career, Floyd. You know, the last Oscar, I should say, last 4 or 5 rounds, he sort of like died off a bit, didn't he? You know, I thought to myself, you know, if that had been me, I'd have been getting stronger. So you know, as much as an underdog would be, you know, I know I'd be a massive underdog. But I don't think a win like that would be on me. I think I would be his worst nightmare.
Would you like your next fight to be got a big occasion back in Britain, having done 3 here now, or do you want to keep hammering on the message over here?
Well, I want to keep hammering the message over here, but I'd be a liar if I didn't think, you know, that I could, because I've not fought back in England since Costa Zoo and the Carlos Mauser fights, and maybe the fans back home are probably thinking, we're never going to see Ricky again, you know, live in England. You know, I would like to go have an homecoming, go back, and you know, I think it'd be a crying shame if I was to, you know, finish off my career just fighting in the United States and not have one more fight in England. You know, so. Well, as slowly but surely as I'm going through my career, I want to tick off, you know, everything that, you know, I mean, stuff like, you know, fighting at Madison Square Garden, topping the bill. I think that is another one of my main goals. I think fighting at the City at Manchester Stadium would be another main goal. Or the new Wembley would certainly be something really special. You know, so yeah, that's something I would definitely want to do. Yeah.
Tapping the bill at long legs.
What about Malignaggi at Madison Square Garden, Ricky? How about that?
Well, yeah, I mean, I watched Blood More to Do with Malignaggi last week, and I was hoping and praying, you know, and jumping out my skin, you know, that he was going to win, because obviously that's another option. I would love to top the bill at Madison Square Garden. And Malignaggi won the fight. He did it in good style. He's not really a big puncher, but he's one of them people that don't have a punch, but it was still exciting to watch. You know, he's good clash of styles. So yeah, I think that would be another one of my main dreams, topping the bill at Madison Square Garden. And when he won that title, then that's a strong possibility now.
Would that be an easy one to make, Dennis?
I think so, yeah, we've already had talk to him.
Sorry?
We've already had talk to him.
Loosely translated, yes.
That's that question.
That's fucking hard for you, though, isn't it? That is very hard for you to be sensitive. Shut the fuck up.
Let your fucking towel.
No, I'm glad everybody's picking on you now. See what it's like.
Stop it off, dude. I'm not fucking around yet. Let me go back.
Hey, when I passed it over to my promoter.
You'll be proud of me. That's this morning.
What was that question again, John?
John.
What was the answer?
Right. Yes. Oh, John. Yeah.
What do you reckon, Dennis?
Not even 40 years now, to be honest. Yeah. We spoke.
And about New York.
No, actually, we just had. But they like to make the fight. That was before we spoke to him before long morning dude with Isabella.
But I mean, about putting it on in New York.
Well, since he's won that title, like Rick says, that it's a national, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that's one of the things we're looking at. But like I said to you yesterday, we don't want to be throwing definitely. We want to be throwing one or two out here because obviously the price goes up.
Yeah.
And you know, once you manage, it's like being the Chelsea manager, isn't it? You know, as soon as you have an interest in a player, they put like 2 or 3 million on his price tag, maybe more. So it's the same with when Ricky's opponents. But when you're dealing with Ricky's opponents, you know, you go from ludicrous.
Strong possibility though, isn't it? Now he's won that title, I think. Yeah.
What about boxer, Ricky?
Well, I think if you could pick the best fight out there, for value for money and styles, I think even though Floyd Mayweather is considered the best pound for pound fighter in the world, I think me and Cotto would be, my ass is twitching just thinking about that one. But I think for value for money, I think for all action, I mean, that just you couldn't get a better fight than that, could you? You really, that would be. I mean, I defy anybody not to get excited about that one. I mean, Floyd, Floyd is the best pound for pound fighter in the world, but he's just going to keep out of the way and tuck up and show nice defence and nice fast moves. Where me and Cotter would be a different story altogether. I think that's the best, most exciting fight out there, without a shadow.
The obvious opponent now, if you're in our plane coming, would be your old mate who holds the WBC title.
I couldn't give a shit about him.
What would he have to do to earn his place, if he ever could?
Next question.
Dennis No, it's like, Junior Etta is the WBC, champion, and you can't, when you think he's won the British title, the Commonwealth title, the European title, the world title. I mean, ultimately, he's had a great career and all that. But I think to myself, he's spent a whole career on getting a reputation off my back, and he's spent a whole career on just slagging me off and that. And I think the only way Junior Witter is going to make any he'll make a good living, but the only way he's going to make any considerable money is by fighting me. And I think to myself, he thought he was a smart ass all these years ago, saying, you don't want to fight him and you're avoiding him and you don't want to fight me and you don't want to do this, that. And it's really backfired on him, hasn't it? Because, I beat Costizu, I beat Louis Calazzo, Calazzo, I moved up in weight, down in weight. I thought they were the best pound for pound fighters in the world. And this is from a fellow who's saying that I was avoiding everyone. I just, he needs me more than I need him. I mean, there's nothing I would like more than to, and I think I would beat him. I've no doubt in my mind I would beat him. But this is probably the only nasty part in Ricky Hatton's body. As far as I feel, this is the nasty part of me coming out. I'm enjoying him, seeing him fucking squirm, fighting nobody's earning no money.
The problem is
that sounds a horrible way to put it, but I think you slagged me off all these years, and now when you need me, fuck you.
I think the camp's not been smart. I think Junior personally has been ill-advised by camps that think that they get the fights by just slagging opponents. But they've been a bit more disrespectful over the years. And whatever Frank Warren says, we had it in a contract to fight Junior Witter how many years ago? 3?
Yeah, more than that.
More than that. In a contract. But obviously...
I think the only thing I can say in Junior's defence was when I won the British title against John Faxton, and if you remember, he gate crashed the interview, and I'll do this, I'll do that, I'll do that, and I think even he knows it, he probably regrets, that probably to this day. But Frank Warren turned around and said to me, he said, you know what, he said, you're two world-class fighters, which I think we are, I think he's a world-class fighter. You're two world-class fighters, what we'll do, we'll build the fight up, and further down the road, we'll build you up and you'll fight for big money. But what I think he did, I think he built me up, but didn't build Junior up. I think, I went to the MEN Arena, I was fighting Freddie Pendletons and Vince Phillips and all that, in front of 12 and 15,000 people, and Junior was then fighting 6 rounders still in Sheffield against no disrespect to the guys like Alan Temple and people like, I think he built me up and he didn't build Junior up, and the reason why he didn't build Junior up, because Junior, for a promoter wants to make money. And Junior Witter can't make a promoter any money because he's, there's fucking more people in there than goes to his fight. It's a lot. You can't. A promoter is interested in you making money. That's the whole thing. And Junior doesn't have a following. It's not exciting to watch. And that's why Junior Witter, sadly, feel sorry for him, only a bit. But promoters don't want to use him. He's a good fighter and he can fight. He is dangerous and he'll beat a lot of world-class fighters. But he's a promoter's nightmare because he just does not sell tickets. He's not exciting to watch. Doesn't matter how good he is, unfortunately. That's just a simple fact of it.
That's what I mean.
No. It's a big fight. I'm sure it'll sell a lot of tickets back on, but I don't feel if you said to me, Ricky, do you want to fight Floyd Mayweather or Miguel Cotto, or I'd sooner look in that direction than Junior Witter, if I put it that way.
Just one last thing, Ricky. On Wembley, it's reasonable to think you might sell, 60,000 tickets there. It'd be like the 1920s, wouldn't it? The Polo Grounds in New York or something. In there.
Yeah, it would be incredible, and I think because imagine if I don't think Mayweather would come to England to fight me. He said a few years ago. He said, "I'll come to England." He said, "I'll fight you in your backyard." And then he beat Costa, and I think he sort of thought, I don't think I'll come to England now. You're not that bad, are you? I think Floyd thought, like everybody thought, that was overhyped. A big ticket selling of that. Yeah. Over the years, when I beat Costa and that, I think he realised that I'm a little bit better than. I'm not just a ticket seller. I'm a little bit better than that. So he's since said he won't. But I think I think anybody would come now to. For the Wembley fight, I think, I think it'd be frightening, the tickets we could sell for the homecoming at Wembley. Even if you got the opponent as well, that would be something. But even if you didn't get the opponent, I think that would be.
I think it'd be more an event.
Oh, I think it'd be. If I didn't think we could do 50, 60,000 at Wembley, I'd be a liar. I tell you, I really do. For anyone. And if you get the big name, I think it'd be frightening to see what would come.
End of October, November time.
That's when I'd like my next fight, Denzel.
What?
I think, because all the way. If you remember, all the way through my career, I've always kept busy. I've always had loads of fights, and I think I've always been better when I've been kept busy. It was only, but in fairness, it was only the one fight after the
Mauser.
Mauser, was it Mauser fight?
Yeah.
I had 8 months off, and it was only TV dates for, I think HBO, there was that TV dates, and it didn't quite come off, and it was going to be October, then it was November, then December, then January, and the date got put back. But I think I've always been a better fighter when I've been busy, and I think the fact that I only had 7 weeks off, as opposed to 8 months off before the last fight, I think you could see when I got on the scales, just physically, the difference in me, how I looked, how fresh I looked, how physically how my body looked, and I think I've always liked to keep busy and not have a long break off, and hopefully I'll have a couple of months off and then be back in action. Maybe end of October, beginning of November, something like that.
Would the weather be a problem with that outside?
Well, if we'd have thought last week, we'd have been in dinghies or something, wouldn't we? We've had to obviously dinghies inside a pitch sort of thing, but English weather, what can you do with it? You know, when Bruno Ford was in Cardiff.
That was October in Cardiff, and chucking it down, and when Bruno beat the court.
Yeah, I think just going back to what Rick said, I mean, wherever he turns up now, and I mean, the South African match for about 50 quid. Honestly, you can have one of them on a chair. People just want to be there where Ricky Hatton. They won't. I don't think they care less if it were a blizzard. They just want to say they were there.
To have the first one at Wembley would be really
I think
something.
you could do it for 50 quid.
Would be really something special.
You'll find them for fucking 20.
I don't think whoever the opponent is. I think it'd be I think the crowd would be unbelievable. But if you get the opponent, to match. And to put it bluntly, I only want big opponents now. I think, last night, because I was fighting Jose Luis Castillo, I thought I was, you raise your game, don't you? I think the two best wins on my record is probably Castillo and Costa. And they were my two best wins. I think that speaks volumes. And I'm not saying that I didn't train hard for Irango and Carazo, and I wasn't, I'm not saying that I wasn't up for them fights, but I think any big time fighter will tell you. I mean, you get given Mr. Bean and you get given Jose Luis Castillo, you find that you just find that a bit extra. I mean,
If Mayweather wouldn't travel, who would your choice be at Wembley?
not bothered. There's Shane Mosley, there's Miguel Cotto, there's Floyd Mayweather, Paul Malignaggi, but Paul Malignaggi in my eyes would have to be a Madison Square Garden fight, because that's something I've always dreamed of, top of the bill there. But you're not, because in the light welterweight, I might have to move up that extra few pounds, but the pain will be worth it again because the big names are all there.
Malignaggi would be one that we'd have to think about though, Malignaggi, because he's a mover, he's all over the place, and sometimes it's difficult to look good when somebody's on the move all the time. So we'd have to.
In Malignaggi's defence, he's a very light puncher, but sometimes when you have light punchers, sometimes they're not the best guys to watch style wise. But I think when he brought something more to do, even though he was a light puncher, I thought he did it in such a manner, that. And me catching him, I think would be a good. Me catching him, legging it after him. I mean, I'd have to cover a few miles to chase him, but I think that would be a good fight.
The coffee's still on the way up.
Yeah, I was made up last night. I was having a gamble. And that Jason Straven come past, and he went, Ricky, and he went, I thought, Castillo would have looked at me that way, the shit is so easy. I loved it. Wow. Yeah,
He's a bit of a scary looking one.
well, yeah.
You see the scorecards? One of them referred to Castillo.
I get that because I think the way I set off, I think he knew he had to do something. I think he knew he had to do something at the third round. He went, But Billy Gray was screaming at me in the corner. He was going, don't go mad. You don't need to go flat out like you are doing. But I said to Billy after, I said, obviously it's your job, because I can make the fight easier by showing a few more angles and moving off. And Billy was also worried about cuts, because it was a lot of close quarter stuff. But I said, Billy, you didn't understand how when I was in the clinches, every time I nudged him or pushed him to the side, I felt like from being known as such a strong fighter. He felt, no disrespect, he felt like a ragdoll in there to me. The first 2 seconds, I come out, I slipped a jab and threw one, bang, and his head went back. And as his head went back, I just went to nudge him in a position to get I body shot him, but as I pushed him, he threw back, he went about 6 foot. he nearly ended up on the deck as I pushed him, and Billy was saying, oh, he said to me after, he went, don't ever do that again, you crazy bastard. So I went, what do you mean? He said, you went straight out there, right off the stool. He said, you just fucking flew at him. He said, you know, if he'd have caught you with that left hook or anything like that, he said, he's a dangerous fighter. He said, you just went in there as if to say, you know, I don't give a shit, you're having it tonight. He said, and he said, you're better than that. I said, yeah, but Billy, I said, every time, from the very opening bell, the first time he hit him, I hurt him. Every time he hit him, he was going, ugh, ugh. And even when I in close,
Mexican.
yeah. Even in the clinches, you know, when I nudged him and I pushed him, he was, I was throwing him all over the show, you know, a bit like a ragdoll. And you know, I said to Billy, I said, you have to understand. I said, every time I hit him and hurt him, and he was, I said, I thought, you know, my game, I thought, just stay on him here because he's not gonna take it. And obviously that's the way it planned out, but. That's the trainer's job to, you know, safety first, be careful on that, but I just felt so strong in there, you know, just felt like, you know, felt like a weight above, you know, for someone who's just known as a very, very strong fighter, especially in close. And that's, but I was a bit of a nasty man, you know, last night. I wanted a big, I said to you all week, didn't I, that I wanted a big performance because I thought my last two was a bit. I wanted the fans to go away and say, wow, Ricky's back.
Yeah. What now then, a bit of a holiday?
Got a couple of holidays lined up, yeah.
Parliament with the Queen.
What's
Yeah,
that?
going
Parliament with the Queen.
Yeah.
I've tried a bit of Parliament actually, we do that. But I think we go to all the lads from the gym, me, Kenny Kays, my brother Matthew, Matthew Macklin, you know, and all the lads from the gym are going on like a holiday to Tenerife. And I get back on the Wednesday at 12:30 at night. I think I see the Queen at 10 o'clock in the morning. Pleased to meet you. Pleased to meet you.
Take some Wrigley's chewing gum with you.
Nice to meet you all.
If anybody would like to interview Billy Graham, he's still downstairs in the bar and hasn't been to bed. He's had it with his trilby on.
He phoned me last night, Billy, and I staggered back to the room. I don't know what time it was, and I got in bed and before I went, hello? It was Billy. He went, you fucking crazy little bastard. He said, I love you. Because I mean, when you think, you know, Castillo, big puncher, you know, massive left hook, good body puncher. He said, you know, in the gym we was working on, you know, good head movement, you know, from a distance I was like slipping the jabs and moving in and popping him, you know, popping him with jabs. I was going to break him up from the outside, and then, but, you know, as soon as the bell went, the tactics seemed to just go for a right turn. Just, you know, as soon as the bell went, I went bang, 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 but
Everybody else want coffee?
yeah, just as soon as I come out, I went bang, the first jab I hit him with. Yeah, just
You can see Cyril and
Just back up into the
21 years to the day. Fella from Satanta, you know,